Hey, welcome back to the stream. Today we're doing a WiiHDMI installation. Pretty excited about this. I started offering the WiiHDMI installation services at my store a couple of weeks ago, and I've started receiving some customer orders in for installation. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing some streams showing the installation process. This has been a long time coming, and I know a lot of people have been asking me about this for years, but it is officially available now. You can order my installation service, and you will receive the full install process and everything. You just send your console in and get it taken care of. So this is one of my customers' consoles. This is a Wii RVL-CPU-01 model, which is unusual. I've done a couple of installations on this channel, live streams of other CPU revisions that have been it's what you would consider to be the typical Wii that you would use for this type of installation, for this mod. Such as the CPU-40 or the CPU-60, or, there's a variety of them. So basically today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different installation process because the CPU-01 model isn't really what this mod was designed for. So we have to do some unusual things to get this working correctly. But it is it's totally intended for this purpose. It's just it's capable of being installed on this console. It's just that it's wasn't expressly designed for it, so it requires a little bit of a change. It looks like I'm dropping some frames. I don't know why. I think that this is an internet related issue. I haven't done much live streaming from my home where I'm living now. All the previous live streams were done at my previous home where I had fiber optic internet. I have cable internet now. I think it's a consistency issue with the cable internet service. But it looks like I've got it worked out to where that the frame drops aren't too bad. They've definitely been worse, but I've got some of the settings changed a little bit to try to compensate for that. So there may be some stutter in the video, but hopefully it's not too bad. And I did end up updating to Windows 10 finally on my stream computer in the hopes that would improve it. But if you see any stuttering, I can't really do anything about it. Hopefully it won't be too bad during this stream. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started by disassembling this Wii here, and then the customer also sent in one of these new production Wii cases. So that should be kind of cool to use. It's like a smoke frosted, or like a smoke clear color. So that'll be pretty neat to get installed as well. So we're gonna go ahead and dig in here to this Wii. So we start by removing the battery. We're going to go ahead and remove all of the stickers for the screws on the bottom. I just use an X-Acto knife for this. You gotta be really careful because these can get torn pretty easily. And then I store everything. I have these little containers that I like to store screws and stuff in to keep track of all the screws and the different components in each layer of the Wii, because the Wii has a lot of screws and layers and stuff in it. So it's kind of a pain to keep up with, but it's good if you got some way to organize all of the stuff that you're taking out of the Wii. That way, when you go to put it back together, you know where everything is and where everything goes. Okay. So that's all the stickers off the bottom. And there's also rubber pads that need to be removed as well. Here, get my tweezers. Okay, so pads are removed, and we have these pads as well, which need to be removed. Let's see. I'm pretty sure that the replacement housing probably comes with new pads and stickers, but I haven't confirmed that 100% for sure. So for now, we're going to assume that we need to keep these around and in good condition. So just try to keep track of them. I just stick them to the side wall of my little container. Helps keep track of them. Oh, this one's not wanting to cooperate. Wii is one of my least favorite consoles to take apart and put back together, just because of the sheer insane quantity of screws that Nintendo put in this thing. I don't know what they were thinking. It's crazy. But you do what you have to. Okay, so that's all the pads we need to remove. Go ahead and start removing some screws. I like to try to keep all of the exterior screws separated out into one container, and then the different layers of interior screws I like to separate out into their own little layers in my little screw cup there. Helps keep everything nice and neat. And we need a tri-wing screwdriver here. Okay, that's all the exterior screws done. Let's go ahead and pull off the faceplate. Remove the faceplate, which that brings up an interesting point. I wonder if the new kit, obviously I think it came with a new faceplate, but I wonder how many components I'm going to need to transplant. I guess it looks like I'm pretty much going to have to transplant everything. Did it come with buttons? Well, I guess we'll find out when we get in there. Alright, so we can go ahead and pull this top shell off here. And lay that aside. Top shield, put that aside. Then the disk drive. The disk drive is held down by 4 screws, 1 in each corner. So we're going to start a new layer of our little screw storage here. Okay. Then the optical drive, there is a ribbon cable and a little cable harness here. So what you're going to do basically is detach this harness and then detach the ribbon cable and then set that optical drive aside. And now we've got about 100,000 screws that we need to remove from here. So we're going to remove the upper layer of screws, and basically you're just taking out essentially every screw that you see here. And here I basically just separate the long screws and the short screws just to make it easier to get things back, get the correct screw back out whenever you're trying to reassemble everything. One thing you definitely don't want to lose track of is this nut that's used for the battery screw. Definitely want to keep track of that. That is very easy to lose. It's probably the most common thing that gets forgotten, left out of the reinstallation. I've done it a couple of times. It's not fun to get a Wii entirely back together. Go to put the magnet, or they put the battery door in, and find out that there's no nut in there for the battery door screw. That really kills the mood. But I have to say, can't lie to you, done it a few times. Sadly. It's so easy to miss. Oh, and it loves to fall out over and over again. So you'll put it in, and then it falls out, and you don't even realize that it's fallen out if you're not paying super, super, super close attention. Okay. Looks like the frame drops are not too bad. says I've dropped 6.3%, but it seems like they just happen periodically. It's like a stutter that happens once in a while, and I think that just probably can be chalked up to poor internet stability with my cable internet provider. And supposedly fiber is coming to my neighborhood sometime in the next year. That's what they say. So maybe there's a chance that I can get some better internet and kind of alleviate the issue here. Okay, so you can remove this antenna. We're going to go ahead and pull this antenna as well. Take out this tray. Remove the fan. That should be it for this cover as well, which it is. All right, then we got a couple of screws that were hiding under that plastic shield there. And one last screw hiding right here between the AV port and the power port. Okay, that appears to be all of the screws for the top shield. So we're going to go ahead and pull that. Just wiggle that off of there. And you need to feed this wire through as you go. The wire and the ribbon cable for the, and the flex cable for the optical drive. All right, set that back here, the optical drive and everything. So we're gonna go ahead and just pop this Wi-Fi card off. Keep the antennas over here. That's gonna be probably the easiest way to keep track of this. And we'll leave the Bluetooth card in place. All right, so now we got to remove the heat sink. And that's a pretty straightforward process here. And I like to remove them in like a diagonal pattern, kind of like you would on a computer heatsink. So we're going to go ahead and lift the board up. Now, I'll typically just leave the heatsink on for this process because this board isn't going to lay flush no matter what we do with it. So, but sometimes the heatsink will fall off, but usually it's pretty firmly affixed with the thermal compound that's underneath there. All right, set that back frame over here and flip her over and take a look at the bottom. So the main difference between the CPU-01 board and the CPU 40, 50, and 60 boards that the WiiHDMI mod was actually designed for is that the AVE-RVL chip that we're going to be soldering to is rotated 90 degrees in the other direction, and the component layout on the board is totally different, so there's nowhere for this to really fit. So what we have to do is essentially we're just going to be basically putting down an adhesive pad here and sticking this in place, and then pretty much just, it's not going to be very pretty, but it's going to basically fit just flipped around the other direction. So this is the flex cable we're going to be installing. It goes right here, and then the WiiHDMI mod will solder to that, and then it'll basically just be sitting on top of these components with an adhesive pad installed. That's basically how it has to be done on a Wii, on a non-standard for this installation Wii. And then this this board here that handles the infrared remote and also provides power from the AV port. Normally, the WiiHDMI board would sit in this orientation, but since it doesn't, this actually breaks away. There's holes here that allow you to snap this portion of the board off, and then you can solder these pads with just a length of ribbon cable. You can solder these pads together to basically extend this board across. So that's basically what we're going to be doing. Let's see. Get my cutters. I'm going to go ahead and snap this board. So it cuts like this, and then you would solder the two sections back together. Alright, now because this doesn't lay flat, it's a lot easier to solder this in this arrangement if you solder the flex cable to the WiiHDMI board first, and then bring the flex cable and the HDMI board together as one assembly into here and solder it onto the AVE-RVL chip. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take our flex. I'm going to set the motherboard out of the way here, and we're going to work on soldering our flex first. So let's go ahead and get zoomed in here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the flex just lines up basically. Let's see if I can get you zoomed in a little bit more. Alright, so the flex is just basically going to line up right here. So you want to line up the castellated holes on the WiiHDMI board with the pads on the flex. And once we got this laid down, we're just going to tack in the corners. So that's tacked in place now, and then we'll just do the rest of them with kind of a drag solder technique. And there is a bridge here, so we're just going to take a tiny bit of no clean flux, and we're going to come back in and clear that bridge. Okay, so that bridge is cleared. We're going to do one more pass with a tiny amount of flux just to make sure we flatten out the flex cable completely. We don't want there to be any waviness in the way that the flex is soldered. Okay, that looks good. Nice and flat. No waviness or anything like that. That flex is well attached. Okay, so let's move on back to the Wii motherboard. So this is our main area of interest right here. We need to remove C43. And we're gonna do that by simply just introducing some solder with our knife tip. Okay. So C43 is a goner, and that gives us room to work with the, that gives us room for the flex to lay more flat on here. So then basically your HDMI mod just slides right into place here, and then you solder it down. So we're going to go ahead and start working on that. You want to get it lined up nicely against those pins. Let's see. Zoom that in just a little bit more. Sorry about the shake. You're zoomed way in right now. It's pretty intense levels of zoom going on here. All right, so to get this soldering started, we're going to add a little bit of flux to the AVE RVL chip. We're going to add a little bit of solder to the tip of our iron, and then we're going to simply work this flex in where it needs to be, which is right there. And then we're going to simply tack down one corner. Okay, and then we're going to tack down. Oh, that didn't actually take. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and move to the other side here. Tack that in place. And then we'll go ahead and add a little bit more flux and add just a bit more solder to the tip. And we'll finish up soldering this down. Okay, so we have a bridge here, which is not a big deal. We're just going to keep working it until we get it. Oh, that is so close. So close. Okay. That's looking good. We'll go ahead and do the audio portion. Same basic concept. We're just going to add some flux. We're going to add a little bit of solder to the tip of our iron. And then we're going to go in and solder this down. This is a bad angle for me. I'm really kind of squished here between the camera I'm gonna reposition. Let's see. Let's try. Yeah, this should be a lot better. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to switch to my knife tip to pull some of this solder off of here, because we just have too much solder. We got too much solder on here in the first place, and I need to be able to work this flex a little bit because it's not quite lined up. So okay, that looks a lot better. We'll add just a little bit more flux. Keep this flex in place, and then there we go. All right, and then we got this corner here to work on as well. Where are you? Okay, there we go. Same drill, little flux, a little bit of solder on our tip. And then we move in and tack the legs down. And we're just going to go ahead and switch back to the knife to finish this off, because it's just easier. It's just easier to use the knife. I don't know why I ever try to do anything other than use the knife tip. Knife tip rules. All right. So this all looks good. We'll kind of move the flex around here just to see if there's any sign that we got cold joints or anything, but it all looks pretty reasonably sturdy to me. Okay. So now we just have the HDMI mod just kind of floating here. So what we're going to do on top of this, keep everything more secure, take an adhesive pad. Let's see, where are my adhesives? Give me just a second. Right. Okay. So we have an adhesive pad. We're going to lift this up, this HDMI mod up just a little bit, and check to see if it's dry, which it is. There's no flux that got underneath there. So we're going to take a adhesive pad and we're going to cut it down just a little bit. Let's say we want to cut it like right here and here. Okay, so that's our adhesive pad. We're going to just stick it right underneath the HDMI mod. Then we're going to just tip the mod up just a hair. Stick it down on the board. And that should hold it reasonably in place. There's one large capacitor here that seems to be messing up the plan. This capacitor right here is a bit too big. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stick the adhesive down to the board, and we're going to just nip away a little bit of that. And then we're going to put another layer of adhesive down on top of that. And that should give us enough padding that the adhesive gets decent contact. So, there we go. That's very solid. So as I said before, this mod is not really intended to work on these boards, but it does have accommodations to where you can make it work on these boards. But it wasn't ultimately designed for that. But there you go. You got a couple of layers of adhesive to keep everything, lifted up and separated. And that's the main soldering done. Let's go ahead and install the power board, which fits right here on the AV port. Now we do need to remove a little bit of the solder from the from this corner anchor piece here. Let's see. Got some solder wick around here somewhere. Give me just a second. Go track it down. Let's see. Okay. Got the solder wick. Just going to go in here and heat this joint up and suck a good amount of solder out of there. You don't have to completely remove all the solder that's there. It's just you're making a space for this board that we're installing to fit. That's basically all it comes down to. Oh, and now my solder wick got fused in there. That's that pad goes straight into a ground plane. It's a really massive heat sink, basically. So you need a decently powerful iron to get in there. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and solder this IR board wire, or the IR board in place here. And we're just going to use the ground pads here, here, and here. And then the rest of these we're going to do like this. We're going to use the fine tip and basically just get that tip down in there. Make sure we get plenty of heat down to the pins. Fill those holes with solder. Now, to be fair, most of these pins actually don't serve any electrical purpose, but I like to solder them all anyway, just because it looks nice. It makes the mod difficult to remove if you ever need to remove it. It's just great in that respect. I kid, of course. It does make the mod difficult to remove, though. So maybe I won't keep doing that in the future. But it's what I do as of right now. And then we're gonna do another pass over the top of this just to kind of just finish it out. Just a couple of passes over the top here. Get that solder looking nicer. And pretty frosty. I think it's because it's a mixture of lead-free and leaded solder. on that connector. Okay, so that's done. We'll go ahead and install the HDMI connector as well. Okay, so for the HDMI connector, you want to get it as straight as you can with the PCB. And you can use this little white silk screen as kind of a guide for how straight you are. And then you want to just hold on. We're gonna add a good portion of solder onto our knife tip, and then we're gonna flow some flux into there and try to tack it down so that it doesn't move on us while we're soldering the rest of the wires. So I'm gonna flow a little bit of flux here. We're gonna get it lined up the way we want it. That looks pretty good there. Okay, and then we'll come back and finish the rest of the pins. The most important ones are these ground pins, because these anchor the whole HDMI board in place, and they take all of the like lateral forces of inserting and removing the HDMI cable. So you want to make sure you get a really good connection there. But also, you need a connection on these other pads because you get power. These USB pads, you get power and well, not really ground. I mean, you do. I think it is connected to ground in this design, but it's not essential for ground. But you definitely get power from here, and that's important for the HDMI signals, because it uses the 5 volts off of the USB as part of the HDMI power, or the HDMI signal detection system. Okay, so that's done. That's done. All we got to do now is connect the IR board to the main HDMI mod board. And to do that, we are going to use a bit of ribbon cable. So it's just 4 pins, and it's a 0.5 millimeter spacing. So it works great with just this standard ribbon cable, floppy disk style ribbon cable. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and strip this. All right, then we gotta tin this ribbon cable. Okay. Tin both sides. And we're going to snip these down just a little short of where they are right now to even them out. Okay, now just to solder them in place. So I'm going to go ahead and just since there's just 4 pads, I'm just going to go ahead and pre-tin all the pads as well. It should be pretty much a straight shot with the with the knife tip. All right, we're going to take a little bit of flux right onto there. Okay, and then I'm going to go, this cabling needs to be straight, so this pin on the right side needs to end up at this pin at the top of this board. It can't be like bent over like this, because that would reverse the polarity of everything that's on here. So we just bend it over here, add a little bit of flux here, and then get the whole thing tacked down. And then to finish this up, we're going to come back in with our micro tip and just get everything nice and neat. Okay, that looks good. This needs a little cleanup too. It's been a little while since I've done a lot of this ribbon cable work, and so I'm kind of fumbling here because I spent so long not doing customer installations that I've kind of lost a little bit of my mojo, it seems like. Okay, now that looks good then. So that's basically what all you have to do to get this set up in a CPU-01 board. It's not, it was never really intended, this mod was never explicitly intended to be used in this model of Wii, so this is a little bit of a non-standard application, but it ends up working out okay. Now I'm just trying to get this to where it looks nice, or at least, you know, looks presentable. Try to see how we can get this to lay down. Okay. I think that looks reasonable enough, given the directions that it has to stay and where it can't really bend. I can live with that. Okay, now last thing is the HDMI connection. We use a ribbon cable for that, and these two get connected here. Now all I have is the longer ribbon cables that I use for the standard installation on the CPU 40 and 50 and 60 Wii's. So for this, you just have to basically tuck it away, kind of hide it wherever you can, because you do have more cable than you really necessarily need. But you just got to get that, get it started here in this one for the HDMI port. Go ahead and lock that down. And then here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually send this under here, underneath here, and then I'm going to fold it back over and then back up and into the slot. That's about as neat as you can get this. Okay, so there you go. Pretty neat overall, I would say. So what we're going to do now is we're going to not fully assemble this, but we're just going to set this up in a temporary test position where I can fire it up and you can we can see that it's working before we actually fully reinstall the new housing and everything. So we go ahead and put the Wi-Fi board back on, because that's required for the Wii to boot. And then we're going to go ahead and get our HDMI cable, install that. Okay, and this is just going to be a brief power-up test. The fan is not installed, but I'm only going to have it on for 10 seconds or so. So we're going to go ahead and plug in power and switch over to the game capture screen, and we'll fire this up. And we're getting no signal. Which is not necessarily a surprise, because my mini HDMI cable is kind of flaky. Put a little deoxit in here and try this again. Okay, let's try this again. Still getting no signal. Switch over to my other screen. Okay, so no signal. What does that mean? Well, that could mean a number of things. First of all, I'm going to power it up and plug in composite video. See what happens on my PVM. So we have no video from composite, which makes sense because the infrared board does make the Wii think that a composite, or that a component cable is plugged in. But we do have sound, so we know that we should be getting video. So the question is, why are we not? Let's go back and look over the mod and see if we can find any problem areas. And this is, of course, why we test before we put everything back together. Because that is no fun. Okay, let's flip her back over and see if we can find any areas of trouble. So we'll first look at the ribbon cable installation. See if we can see any problems here. That's all looking good there. We might want to reflow the main portion of the ribbon here. Everything looks good in the sound. All looks good as well. Doesn't look like we have any cold joints here. So we're going to reflow the, we're going to go ahead and reflow the chip here. Just the main track of pads. And we're going to do this as carefully as possible to make sure that the flex doesn't get pulled back up by accident. Come on. Come on, bridge, get off of there. Cooperate. There we go. That cleared the bridge. That all looks good. Okay, everything's looking good. Let's go ahead and try testing again. And we'll go from there. Well, This is annoying. Yeah, we have sound. Just no video from the mod. Alright, we're going to go ahead and shut this back off. I gotta get a new HDMI cable. Typically, it seems like the problem with this almost always ends up, whenever I test these or do anything with the HDMI mod for the Wii, it ends up being the HDMI cable, this little adapter that I have, being the problem. So that is, I'm operating under the general assumption that that's probably what our holdup here is, because this is an extremely unreliable mini HDMI adapter that I'm using. Okay, well, what we have to do now is a little proper troubleshooting. So, I'm going to poke around on this. I'm going to put the fan back in and poke around on this mod and try to figure out what is actually preventing us from getting video. There's a very high likelihood that it is the HDMI cable, because this is almost always the problem whenever I work on one of these. But if it's not the HDMI cable and it's actually a soldering issue, I can pinpoint that pretty quickly. Okay, so fan's back in. It's going to be a lot safer to work on it now and keep it running while I'm testing. Okay. I'm firing up the oscilloscope. You're not going to get to see this, unfortunately. But I'm going to poke around on this board to check for things like, well, check for voltages, check for clock signals, data, all that good stuff. So let's start with M. That's our clock signal. And that should be 54 megahertz. And it is. We're getting 54 megahertz from M. Let's check our getting 3.3 volts. Ground to the chip. And data, 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 clock, data. Not getting anything from data pin 7. So the question is, am I supposed to be getting anything from data pin 7? Hey, I am supposed to be getting something from data pin 7. Do we have a faulty ribbon cable? We might just have ourselves a faulty ribbon cable. It's kind of surprising. I wouldn't have thought that would be a failure mode, but here we are. We got data here and we don't have data up here. That's pin 7. So the question is, how do we have a bad data? How do we have a bad flex cable? That's what I want to know. So data pin 7 is getting no data. So that could be the reason for our problem. Let's go back to the A cam and let's take a look. So pin 7 is getting no data. It's detected here at the pad, but actually at the chip there is no data. So I'm gonna briefly pop over to the microscope. You guys won't be able to see this, but I'll pop over to the microscope and just look at this. I'm curious what it looks like over there at pin 7. So weird. It looks just fine. I mean, it looks perfectly fine. It just has no data on it. Where's my multimeter? Well, my multimeter's not down here. I was gonna probe it with my multimeter and show no contact, but I don't have it, so I'm gonna have to just work off of what I saw on the oscilloscope. So pin 7 is there. The data is missing. So what I'm gonna do to confirm this theory about pin 7 being our problem, I'm gonna run a quick bodge wire, and then once it's confirmed that that was the problem and we get video, then I will swap the flex out. So to do this, I'm just going to simply run a bodge wire to pin 7 from the pad for data pin 7. Okay, the bodge is in place. Let's go ahead and pop the heatsink back on. Jump back over to game capture and let's see what we get. Still no signal. But we've got data at pin 7 now, so that's a thing that we have. Hmm. Let's check the power rail. Oh, that's weird. It's getting 3.4 volts here. If I think about the schematic, we're only getting 80 millivolts. So we got 3.44 volts in, but only 80 millivolts out of our power. Very strange. Okay, let's check our ground pin is good here. Well, we appear to have all of our signals. Good Lord. we appear to have all of our signals. So we're going to have to rethink this a little bit. I'm going to check something over here. Here's my test bed. This is my Wii, my test bed Wii. Okay, so I got my test bed Wii here. I'm going to grab another Wii HDMI mod. I'm going to do a couple of, I'm going to probe around on it and check a couple of signals. See what they are supposed to look like. Okay. Really, I'm getting no signal here either. Is it my HDMI cable? Is that what this is all coming down to? If it's my HDMI cable, I'm going to be so angry about this. This stupid HDMI cable has given me all kinds of trouble. Here, let me, I'm going to plug in the RetroTink and see if we get signal from it on the capture card. We're not getting signal from the RetroTink either. Is it my capture card or is it the HDMI cable? I think it might actually be my capture card. Okay, we're gonna try hooking this up directly to the LCD and see what we get. Yeah, I got sound and no video on my PVM as well. All right. We're gonna bypass the capture card, hook directly into the LCD that I have up here, and see if that does it. Okay, yeah. It's my capture card. It's always the freaking capture card. There you go. There's on the LCD. Let me switch back to the customers. And then we'll take a look at it again. Let's see. I think I can get B cam looking at the LCD. Okay, I had to work out what's wrong with my capture card later. Well, let's go ahead and get the customers Wii back on here. Okay. Okay, powered it back up. Let's see. Switch over to B cam. Change inputs. Hey, there we go. And I synced up a controller earlier. So hopefully, maybe. Come on. Oh. You have to plug in the IR bar. It doesn't work if you don't plug it in. Alright, come on. Come on. Hey. Wiimote. What are you doing? What do you... There we go. There we go. So let's go into the options and take a look at the display settings. Resolution, we'll put that onto progressive scan. Get us some 480p. And there you go. That's WiiHDMI 480p. Stupid capture card pisses me off. All right, so that's pretty much all there is to it on the main installation there. It's a wild goose chase for no reason because of my stupid capture card. This is the second capture card I've put in here. I've got these AverMedia. X unknown. Is this installation fairly easy? I mean, I guess if you've got a functional capture card. I end up going on these wild goose chases whenever I install these WiiHDMIs on stream because my capture card doesn't... I've used two AverMedia capture cards, and they, for whatever reason, this is the second different model of AverMedia capture card, and for whatever reason I can't get them to work reliably with the WiiHDMI mod, but they work everywhere else. It's something about these, I don't know, I guess these old AverMedia cards, because these are, I had a 720p AverMedia card, and now I've got a 1080p AverMedia card, but they just don't do a great job with the Wii for some reason. But anyway, so yeah, this is installed. The installation is not, I would say it's not a beginner installation for sure. There's some very fine pitch soldering that has to be done, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's impossible. It's a, I'd say like medium hard installation. But I always seem to run into unrelated problems whenever I install it on stream. So your mileage may vary. Okay, so we have to hook up the controller cable now, and the controller cable for the menu controls gets wired up to, let's see, TP27, I believe. Let me double check that. It's been a while. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, that's what it is. So TP27 is the test point that we solder the pad wire to, so that you can control, using the GameCube controller port 1, you can control the menu for the GC video. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of solder to TP27. And we'll add a little bit of solder to the pad. It's the pad that connects the pad wire. And then we will take a bit of wire. I'm using 28 gauge stranded wire, but you can use pretty much whatever wire you want to use. It's not, this application isn't super critical to have a particular type of wire. 28 gauge is just what I keep around as a kind of a standard. Okay. A little bit of flux. To the pad wire, and then bring this down to TP27, giving yourself enough slack that you can get around the screw bosses whenever you go to put everything back together. All right. Let's get soldered to TP27. We add a little bit of flux, as ever. And there you go. So, that's pretty much ready to go back into a shell. Before we do that, though, we're going to do one more test here where we just need to plug this back in, plug in a GameCube controller, make sure that we've got control over the the menu system, and then we will proceed to work on the case. This brings up a question for me. Now that we have 480p enabled, I wonder if that's what was giving the capture card trouble. Let's see. Because it was set to 480i, and I can't remember if the GC video mod line doubles by default. So it's possible that the capture card may not be able to handle 480i, but I don't know. This is a new capture card to me, so let's give this another shot here. Still no signal. Oh, you know what? It couldn't be that, because we already confirmed that the other Wii didn't work either. So, never mind. That was poorly thought out. That was poorly thought out. But I tried. Yeah, that's frustrating. Super frustrating. Well, I'll try to figure that out some other time. What's going on with that capture card? For now, we will just go into the monitor and pull up the B cam. Okay. Oh, a little quick on the draw there. All right. We're up and running here. Try to max out the audio as well. This little monitor has speakers in it, but they are awful. So, but at least we'll be able to hear something. What is the controller combo? I'm trying to remember what it is. It's LR start XY, right? Let's see. I must be doing the wrong combination. Let's see. Oh, it's just LRXY. There we go. Oh. Dang it. There we go. The Wii, you can only do this whenever you when the Wii is actually scanning for button inputs. So that's in the main menu or in the warning menu here. Once you get past that, for some reason you can't change it. Okay, we got to go to output settings. We got to go to enhanced DVI mode. Turn that on. Oh, actually, we want to save that. Okay. And now we should have audio. Audio doesn't sound good. All right, yet another problem we have to deal with. Okay, what's wrong with audio? Let's go check our soldering. Good Lord. This is a nightmare. Okay, what's wrong with the soldering for audio? Do we have a bad... Is it another bad flex issue, potentially? Let's find out. You know, it might actually just be bad soldering. Now that I'm looking at it, it doesn't look great. Let's see. Let's see. The flex is actually not perfectly aligned. Let's see if we can get better. That alignment looks a lot better now. Okay, that looks a lot better. Let's try hooking it up again. No, it still sounds like garbage. All right, so the perpetual question with all of this is it a problem with the mod or is it a problem with my setup for capturing this stuff? Is it a problem with the HDMI cables? Is it a problem with the adapters? Is it a problem, you know, what's the problem here? So let's take another look here. I'm gonna poke around with the oscilloscope and see if it's yet another bad flex connection, because it could be. I mean, we had one bad line that we caught in the flex cable already, so heck, I mean, it could be another bad flex, you know, bad part of the flex. I don't know. This would be the first bad flex I've encountered on this mod, but just because it's the first doesn't mean that it's not, I mean, you know, that it doesn't exist. Okay, we're gonna fire this back up, and I'm gonna poke around and see what I can find out. Okay, so we have the B line has data, the A does not, and L does have activity. So A has no activity, B has activity. So where's A? A is the middle of these three here. So let's see. And there is activity at the chip. So this is another dead line. So this is just a bad flex all the way around. Totally a bad flex. And it's possible that I damaged this flex when I was installing it, because to install the flex in this configuration, you have to bend it in ways that it obviously wasn't really made to be bent. But I don't know, that still doesn't, I don't know, that's not a very satisfying explanation, because if that's the case, then, you know, that really puts a damper on my desire to ever think about offering these for sale to DIYers, because if the flexes that I have, which I think I have 200 of them manufactured, if they're not reliable, I can't really ship out a product like that where customer goes to install it and then their flex doesn't work, and then I have to send them a new flex and then they have to completely rework the board. That's just not really viable, I wouldn't say. So, so I think it's fair to say that I wouldn't really recommend beginners to do this mod, for sure. It's not a very beginner-friendly mod. It shouldn't be this complicated, but it just is, because of reasons. Okay, I'm gonna bodge this over and we're gonna see if that fixes our audio problem. And if it does, then that pretty much explains it. Okay, got a bodge installed there. Let's go ahead and test audio again. Stupid monitor. I hate these auto switching monitors. If I wanted it to switch, there you go. There's working audio. So we just have a bad flex cable. That's just what it comes down to. Bad flex cable, multiple dead connections on that flex cable. That sucks. Now I'm going to need to... I don't have a way to test flex cables. I have a jig for testing the actual mods and stuff, but I don't have a way to test flex cables. So this is going to be... This adds another layer of complexity to the process. But... Oh, that's so annoying. Okay. Well, now that that's tested, then I can go ahead and... I'm going to go ahead and swap the flex cable out. And then we're going to test again and then put everything back together. So as far as swapping the flex cable out is concerned, this is going to suck. I can already tell you it's going to suck. But we got to do what we got to do. So... Let's see. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is first I'm going to disconnect the flex cable from the mod PCB. And now that the board is already in place and everything, we're not going to remove it. I think I'm just going to try to work the new flex cable in without disturbing the mod, because I don't want to pull up the adhesive and risk damaging any of the other wiring or anything like that. Okay, that's totally loose down here. Go ahead and remove the audio section. And all right. And the last portion right here is just to get this sucker out of here. All right, bad flex removed. Go ahead and clean up these pads. Okay. Let's get a new flex. All right, so as far as how I'm going to install this flex, I'm basically just going to clean up all the remaining solder on the cancellations here. Get this as flat as possible underneath, and then I'm just going to bring the flex cable in and try to tack down a couple of corners, and then just do the same procedure as I did last time. Actually, I just thought better of this plan. The better plan is to go ahead and solder the flex cable down to the AVE RVL, because the alignment is so critical here. I don't even know what I was thinking. But we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. So let's just go ahead and tack this portion down here. That should hold it in place well enough. Okay. Okay, we'll get a little extra solder on the tip, and let's go ahead and finish out these pads. And we're going to switch to the knife tip for obvious reasons. Okay, and then got audio left to do. I've been thinking recently that it would be nice to switch from this cancellation pattern, You know, whenever I designed this, when I designed this mod, I was basically just trying to make it as similar of an installation procedure to Dan's Wii Dual as possible, because I figured people would be familiar with that already, and so it would be like installers who already install the Wii Dual would already be totally familiar with the process, and you know, you wouldn't have any confusion about it. But the more I work on this, the more I realize that this is just frustrating. If it was just a ribbon cable with a connector that you could hook it, you know, plug it into, that would be much nicer from an installation perspective than whatever's going on here. This is just pain. This is pain and suffering. Of course, this isn't exactly the intended installation method that Dan came up with whenever he designed the WiiHDMI originally, or the Wii Dual originally. So, you know, we're kind of cheating here by even installing on this model of Wii anyway. But, you know, still, even though we're cheating technically, and this shouldn't really be installed on this model of Wii, it could definitely be easier. All right. Okay, so that's new flex cable is installed. Old bad flex cable is gone. We do need to transfer the capacitor because this new flex cable didn't have one installed yet. Okay, so trying to pretty this joint here up a little bit. Okay. New ribbon cable installed. Let's try testing this again. And the hope here is that this new ribbon cable doesn't have any of the problems that the old one did. Hey, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Again, you have to plug in the IR bar for it to be able to be seen. That is the trick, isn't it? Come on. Come on. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right, so everything's working good. We can go ahead and close this thing up and put it in the new shell. All right. Apologies that was such an annoying process. I don't really even want to talk about it anymore. But everything's good, so we should be good to go. You know, I think maybe I might have broken the flex. It's possible that I broke the flex because the procedure that I used was one I'd never tried before, but I thought would be easier, which was to install the flex onto the WiiHDMI mod before I installed the mod onto the actual Wii motherboard. And that required flexing the cable, like bending the cable down in a way that it maybe isn't really suited for. So maybe the procedure has to be the reverse of what I did, where the flex cable gets soldered down first, and then you just have to deal with the fact that you have to kind of wedge that flex cable upwards. Essentially, what I want to say about this mod is that although it is possible to install it on the AVE, on the CPU-01 variant, don't do it, is what I'm saying. I offer the service, but I charge extra for it because of the extra complexity of it. And I would say at this point I haven't worked out exactly the correct way to do this installation, because as we just saw, we had a bad flex that very well could have been caused because of the way I did the procedure. So yeah, at this point I want to say you shouldn't install this on a CPU-01 or CPU-02. Is that what it is? Or CPU-20 or 30? It just, the CPU-40, 50, and 60 are like specifically made for this. So it works a lot better on those, just because it's actually designed for it and you don't have to do anything weird. But anyway, that was a good learning experience. I think I'm going to change up the order of operations of how I do the installation now. Hopefully that prevents the kind of damage that happened to this flex. I can only assume. It doesn't seem... I mean, it could be a bad flex from the factory, but I think it's more likely that I probably damaged it by bending it back and forth a couple of times. So, all right. We're going to go take a look at the new shell that we were provided with the installation. So this is it. This is the new shell that the customer provided with us for this installation. And it's got new pieces for the front, the sides. And I'm going to try to keep this protective plastic in place the whole time that I am working, because I don't want to scratch this at all. I'm going to remove the memory card and controller doors as well. Keep these up here where they're safe. But I'm going to keep the plastic on as long as I can, if not the entire process of reinstalling this. Let's take a look at what all we received with this package. So of course you got a new faceplate, which is cool, matches everything. And we got a new LED light pipe for the disk drive. And then this is like the plastic assembly that goes up into the front plate. And we got new buttons and pads and a whole new set of screws as well. So we're gonna take the buttons and these pads. Do these have an adhesive on the back of them? No, they don't. So we're not going to use the new pads because they don't even have an adhesive backing on them. But we're gonna use the old pads because they're both white. It's the new pads and the old pads are both white rubber pads anyway. So we're just going to use the old ones since they have an adhesive on them still from the original Wii, and I don't think we're going to need any screws from that screw pack either. Okay, so we got to transfer some things out of the old front plate into the new one. Let's go ahead and remove these two screws. Oh, 3 screws. Oh, that was easy. I thought there'd be like pieces that needed to be snapped out of there and all that kind of stuff, but no, they all pretty much just fell apart once you remove those 3 screws. Okay, so for the new front plate, we've got well, they included a new LED diffuser, but oh no, this is not, it's not the diffuser portion, it's just the back plate. So this is a replacement for this back plate so that it's not white. So we need to just transfer the little circuit boards out of here. The little button boards. Okay, so this button board goes here. Well, it's not an exactly perfect fit, but it's close. Actually, there's several things that are not the same about this. Okay, well, we're just going to work around it. This isn't the same. The length of the two wires ended up being different on this end because of the way that it routed. Let's see. I need to backtrack a little bit here. All right, well, so something is coming to my attention here, which is that I offered to transplant this into a new shell at no charge, but going forward in the future, if you send a console to me and you want it if you send a Wii to me and you want it transferred to a new shell, probably gonna have to charge a few bucks extra just because of the added time, because this is actually a pretty annoying process installing this stuff back into this new faceplate. Hate to say it, but it's this isn't particularly fun. So I don't know. I don't know what I'll do exactly, but I'll probably have to charge if you want to have your Wii transplanted. Because I didn't think it was going to involve this much tedious kind of rearranging of things. All right. So that's back together. Let's see. Are we supposed to remove this felt? No, that felt's not going to come out. So I guess this just doesn't have the felt. It's just got the diffuser. It's not meant to have, I mean, I guess it's not meant to have the felt because I don't see how you're supposed to get the felt out of there. Okay. Sorry if this isn't very interesting commentary. I'm just so focused in on what I'm doing here because this is a very tedious process. Okay, we need to install a couple of things. We gotta install the buttons. You got power up here. What is this? This one doesn't have anything printed on it. That's eject, so this must be reset. Okay, so power. reset, eject. Okay. Oh, come on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the most tedious thing I have ever done. That is totally not true, by the way. Completely false, what I just said there. But it is very tedious, because all these individual little pieces have to come together just right without running into each other, and everything has to snap down into its exact little spot. But there it is. It does look pretty cool though. Alright, go ahead and pop some screws in here. You really need 3 or 4 hands for this. Now, if somebody offered a shell that already had, like, the front plate, all the parts transferred into it and everything, that'd be a different story. Aw, man. Where does that light pipe... Oh. Where does this light pipe go? Oh. Oh, why is that a separate piece? Okay, so the LED light pipe for the power button is a separate piece for some reason. Not sure what ungodly reason would make somebody design it this way, but... So I have to pull this up. Let's see. There we go. That's the light pipe installed there. Come on. There we go.
That's all together now. Light pipe and all. All right, let's get this back together. All right, that looks good. Looks really nice. That's going to look very cool. All right, now we need to modify this shell to support the HDMI port. So what we got to do is do a little bit of measurement. Now, I have another WiiHDMI that is installed already that I use as my basis for the measurements of what I need to remove, because I never wrote them down anywhere. So I just pull this example out and go from there. So looks like we need to remove about 1.5 mils, about 1.5 millimeters from the top shell right here. Okay, so I'm going to peel back just a little bit of this plastic, and from the edge of the USB port we need to remove 11.8 millimeters. So we're gonna mark the edge there just with the calipers, and that's where we cut. Okay, so we're marking the edge there. Okay, and then we need to remove what did I say before? We're shooting for 1.5 millimeters from the edge of this lip right here down. So we're gonna just slide our calipers, slide our calipers across here. Till we've effectively marked a line. Okay, so that's for the top shell. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cutting the top shell. And for this, what I'm going to use, if I can find it, I brought it in here. I'm going to use this hacksaw blade right here, just a loose hacksaw blade, just to shave the plastic right on this line. And the reason I'm doing it with a hacksaw blade is because I've done it with files and stuff like that, and it's doable, but you can cut a straight line pretty easily with a blade and then clean it up with a file afterwards. I've tried it with X-Acto knives and stuff as well. That doesn't really typically work out very well with an X-Acto knife. Okay, so I've cut the first line. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use side cutters to clip out the side here. So now I'm not going to clip right on the line. I'm going to clip a little ways away from the line so that I can then use a file to finish it up. And I'm just slowly digging in more and more so as not to risk cracking the plastic. But that's basically, that's the cut there. So next, I'm going to grab one of my files. And I'm just going to do a little bit of light filing here just to clean up this cut. And get myself closer to that line that I scribed. Okay. Come in here with the microfiber to get some of this dust out of here, especially since this is a clear case. Okay, now that looks good. Let's grab the motherboard and see how well it dry fits into there. So of course this is not a totally accurate representation of how it's going to fit because it doesn't have any of the upper shell components on it, but there you can get an idea of how it's roughly going to look right there. And that looks good. We're gonna work on the top end of this. Yeah, that's about where it's gonna sit, and that looks about right. So we're gonna work on the bottom shell now, get that looking good, and then we'll start closing everything back up. Okay, so for the bottom shell, we're gonna pull out our trusty, already modded Wii again to get some measurements off of it. So, same thing here. We're going to measure how deep we're going to be cutting from the top of this plastic piece. So, we need to be about let's see if I can line this up. Really, about 1 millimeter is all we're taking off of this shell to create the opening for the top of the HDMI port. So 1 millimeter high, and then again, this is, what was that? About 11.8 millimeters wide. Okay. So we're just going to do basically the same thing here. We're just going to mark it. So that marks where we're cutting from. I'm going to set the calipers to 1 millimeter, and we're going to scribe the line. Okay. So that's kind of hard to see, but I've scribed a line there. And then For this, because it's such a small area that we're removing, we're not going to use the clippers on it. We are going to make our depth cut using the hacksaw blade. And that's almost there already. Okay, and we're just going to use the file to do the rest of the work. And this one's pretty easy to get right too, because you're basically you're almost flushing this edge up with the plastic below it. So there's very little that can go wrong with it, really. So there you can see the cutout has been made. So if I set this board down inside of here where it's going to sit once the installation is complete. Let's see. We do need to remove. We got to remove the edge of this post in here as well. I forgot about that. That's because the board underneath here interferes with that post. So we just got to nip off the edge of that. So that's just took that corner off of it, and that should give us enough clearance. And it did. It gave us enough clearance. So now you can see how the USB or how the HDMI port sits there. And then if we take the top shell and put that on top, you can kind of get a mock-up of how the whole thing goes together. And there you go. So I do need to come back in with the file and adjust a little bit of this. It needs to be slightly, this needs to be filed down just slightly more. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It's just a little undersized. The thing about it is that you can always remove more material, but you can never add material back in. So you want to be cautious when you're doing this filing that you don't go overboard, because if you do, you can't get it back. So it's always better to be cautious. Okay. Okay, one more test fit here. Well, a little bit more filing needed on the top shell as well, it turns out. Okay, let's give this a shot. Okay, that's pretty much perfect. So, that's your HDMI port right there. Okay, now we'll just finish up doing the reassembly. Now with this mod being in here the way that it is, you can't retain the shield, the bottom RF shield. It's just not, there's not enough room. There's no way to do it with this mod in here. So unfortunately that's going to be that had to be out of there, but that makes it to where that you can see the mod, so that's kind of cool. It's makes it more visible. I like to be able to see the mods. If you're going to have a clear case, it's pretty cool. Okay, just do a little cleanup here, make sure that the board looks presentable. Then we're going to go ahead and start reinstalling it. Oh, before you install the shield, you need to put in the screws for the heatsink. No heatsink would be kind of a problem. Okay. Ah, this goes underneath here, doesn't it? No? No, it doesn't. I don't remember where this piece goes. Let's see. I could have sworn this piece fits in here, but perhaps I am wrong about that. Wait, is this part of that? No. Oh, is it part of one of these plastic assemblies? Possibly. Ugh. How's everybody doing tonight? Doing good? Let's see. Where is the... Aha. Aha. It doesn't go over the middle one. It goes over this front piece. Like that. Done. So, yep, that's just a piece of probably totally redundant shielding. But hey, what do I know? Nintendo did do a nice thing when they designed this shield and everything. They put little arrows and X's and different symbols that indicated which layer each screw goes into, which really significantly helps in making sure that you put in the screws in the correct order and you don't put in screws that you're not supposed to before you're supposed to. So it's a very nice touch on Nintendo's part, because there's so many different layers of things in here. It's really easy to accidentally put in a screw or add on a piece that goes on a different layer than the one you're currently on. And then you end up where you have to partially re-disassemble the console to get back to a screw that you're supposed to be accessing at that time. I hope I'm coherent right now. Okay. We need to start getting these pieces back together. I didn't put this one in the correct order. Dang it. This is just a shield plate, but see if I can work it in there without having to completely disassemble this. See, this is the struggle of the Wii mod. Every part of the Wii mod is the struggle of the Wii mod, but there we go. But the disassembly and reassembly process for the Wii is it's just insane. I don't know. I don't know how Nintendo came up with this design, and I don't know how this was viable to manufacture. I would have thought there would have been no way that this could be efficiently made on a factory line. How could you crank this out efficiently on a production line? It's crazy. So many screws. So many layers. Blows my mind. Let's see. Let's go here. And through here. Under here. Through here. And typically it goes up under here. Although this one was not assembled that way, but that's how they normally are built. So I don't know if they changed how they did it at some point during the process of manufacturing these, but normally this wire runs up through here. But this Wii did not have the little adhesive tapes that normally hold that wire up there, so I don't know what that was about. Maybe something specific to this Wii. Maybe somebody's been in here before. I don't know. Although I didn't see anything that obviously suggested that this one had been worked on prior to this, but other than that's the only real anomaly that I saw in here. Okay. That looks good. I missed a couple of screws here. One more once over here. Okay. All right. Keep track of that nut. Can't lose that one. Okay, so the optical drive screws. go in. All right. Okay, I need to put that nut in place before I do this, because I can't get to it afterwards, so that just slides in place there. And this drive shield is installed. Weird. Okay. Hey, sorry about that. My camera cut out. Glad I spotted that. That was pretty quick process. I spotted that pretty quickly. That could have gone on for a long time. Okay, so the top shell is in. We just got some final screws to put in. And then we will be good to go. All right. All right, there. Where's my tri-wing screwdriver? Found it. Well, somehow that nut got loose. This always happens. I don't know how, but it does. It always happens. So I got to take it apart again just to get that nut out of there and get it put back in place. I hate you, Nintendo. Nintendo's the worst company ever. They design terrible hardware. Their games are... okay, their games are good, but the hardware that they have designed over the past few years has been a complete pain in the ass to deal with. While I'm in here, I'm going to remove this piece of tape because I think it's ugly. And you can see it really clearly. Alright, where did you go? There you are. Oh. Alright, let's try this again. Now stay there. Okay, I'm going to get the bottom screws in before I flip this over, in the hopes that that will avoid losing these, or the nut again. Great. Okay, didn't go anywhere this time. Excellent. Okay. All right. Time for this front cover. Come on. We're in the home stretch here. Don't give me trouble here. What's the hang up here? What is the hang up here? Something is stopping this piece from going in all the way. There we go. Oh, that's annoying. The battery cover does not come with, and the battery holder does not come with a captive screw installed. So I'm going to have to harvest the screw from the old battery holder. It's not very smooth either. I don't think it's exactly the correct shape. Yeah, it's not very smooth compared to the original. So this has a little spring clip on it. I'm going to try to extract that spring clip without sending it flying across the room. That's not going to work. Let's see. Okay. All right, so now the question is, can I get the spring clip back on? This is going to be tricky. Let's see. Ugh. It's magnetic. That sucks. Got it. Got it. Well, that looks pretty good. All right. Have to figure out the feet, situation with the feet. Well, I'll say this much. These aftermarket Wii shells look pretty cool at a glance, but the fine details are not very good. Like this door hinge barely stays in at all. And I think it's because the molding is not quite exactly right. The Nintendo door hinge snaps in here really well. But this one just kind of, I don't know, it pops in there, but it just kind of sits where when it's open, it just easily just pops right out. It doesn't really positively click in there. But, I mean, I don't know. It's aftermarket stuff, so how much can you really ask of it? Alright, and then we got our GameCube controller covers. That went on all right. Oh, I still have a couple of screws to put in here. Okay. There we go. Well, again, I don't know, it's just not, it doesn't quite come together. I don't know. Let's put in the bottom screws here for the bottom of the faceplate. See if that helps at all. I wonder if that has any effect on the yeah, it just doesn't, it all just doesn't really totally come together, you know? It's just kind of, nothing's exactly right on this. You know, I mean, it's going to look cool at a glance, But if you really get up on it, you can see a lot of deficiencies in these replacement shells. But it does look cool. All right, so we got that together. We need to add in. You put in the feet. I need to harvest the rest of the feet from the old shell. Okay. That foot goes right there. This foot goes here. Mm-hmm. My A730, which is my main camera, is overheating. So I'm running out of time here on this stream. That's why it keeps shutting off on me, is because it's the actual camera is overheating. So we're pretty much done. So if it does keep overheating on me and shutting off, then we'll probably have to just call it. But, you know, got to see pretty much the whole process. You got to see some troubleshooting of some issues. That's a pretty good lineup of things that you can do. There we go. We're back. Okay. I got a couple more feet to harvest from the original shell. I can't believe that the ones they sent with this kit didn't include any adhesive. That's kind of crazy. I don't know how they expect anybody to install them, because the adhesive almost every time comes with, you know, comes off with the pads. It never stays on the console. It's an extremely rare occurrence when it does. Yeah, my camera keeps freezing. I've never run it for this long. Alright, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to switch to B cam. We're going to finish this up on B cam. B cam is going to be the new A cam, and then A cam is going to take a nap, a well-deserved nap, because it's been going all day. Needs a rest. I don't know why B cam is still so healthy, because it's been running just as long, even though you haven't been seeing it. But here we are. So B cam is the new A cam, and we're back in business. B cam is an old Sony A7S, the original. So I guess A7Ss just don't ever overheat. I can run this thing for hours and hours without even the slightest problem. And now I know that the A7 III does overheat in these sorts of conditions. Worth knowing. Okay. That's done. That is a HDMI modded Wii right there in a new shell. It looks nice. I'll peel the cover back so you can see. Pretty cool. See the mod there, and then we'll peel the top back as well. You can see that. So you see inside of the guts a little bit. I mean, I gotta say, the clear case, this kind of smoke clear case, pretty cool. It would just be nice if the quality was a little bit higher on it. That's all that I'm trying to say. That's all. If you think about it. All right. Let's do one last, let's fire this bad boy up for one last time, just to do a final test run on it, now that everything's together. And then we'll roll out. Oh, and if you want to see how perfect that HDMI port came out. Come on. There it is. Look at that. Oop. Okay. Let's take a look. Okay, that's my finicky HDMI cable acting up again. All right. Let's see if I can plug in the infrared, the IR bar again. Ooh. Yeah, there we go. All right. And we are in widescreen and 480p. And that's about all there is to it. Oh, the one thing I forgot to do, which I'll just do this off screen, is in the there is a little hole that needs to be made for the IR remote button, and I forgot to make that hole. But I'm not going to do that on stream. It will require full disassembly. Full disassembly of the console because I'm an idiot. So right here, somewhere here. Come on, camera. Come on, camera. You gotta be kidding me. All right, well, I guess it's not gonna autofocus. Right underneath the AV port, there is a tack switch that you use to sync up a remote if you want to use the remote to control the system. And that just needs to be, a hole just needs to be punched there. So, so that you can push the tack switch to sync up a remote. So I'm going to take care of that off screen because I'm tired of being on stream and this has been a frustrating install. I don't think I'm going to I don't think I'm going to stream Wii installs anymore because every time I stream one, it goes horribly wrong. But every time I just do one on my own without anybody watching, it goes perfectly smooth. So I don't know what it is about the Wii, but for some reason I cannot get an install to go smoothly on stream. So I think I'm done with it. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching all of this. It's a bit of a process getting a WiiHDMI installed, but it is something that I can do. So it's just sometimes we run into technical issues when we're on stream. But anyway, if anybody wants to have their Wii modded, I can you can check down in the description of this stream. There's the links to my website where you can purchase my installation services. In all likelihood, I will not be streaming your mod. Unfortunately, that's just how it's going to have to be. But I will certainly do it if you need it, and you can hit me up on the website for that. But anyway, if you have any questions about anything on here, you can go down to the comments of this video or go to my contact form on my website to ask anything about the services I offer. All right, well, this has been fun. I will catch you all next time, and we'll see you later.